From delivering hilarious reality checks
If you really put the math together, you have eaten the food that belonged for next 4 years ahead of time.
to straight up cutting off an ungrateful patient from his care,
Call your father to find out where we would take you.
here are Dr. Now's most savage moments ever captured on My 600 Pound Life. Starting with Margaret from Baytown, Texas, who weighed in at a whopping 752 pounds when she first appeared in Season 10's Episode 10. Like most participants, Margaret had difficulty walking and doing anything for herself, so she had to depend almost exclusively on her mother to bathe and tend to her personal hygiene. At the start of her journey, Margaret showed the desire needed to shed weight, even impressing the doctor, who allowed her to go home on the condition that she would maintain her diet and visit a physical therapist as recommended. Unfortunately, when Margaret returned a few weeks later, she had failed to lose the desired amount of weight needed for bypass surgery, a weight loss procedure to a small pouch in the upper part of the stomach, limiting the amount of food one can consume. This incurred the wrath of a deeply disappointed doctor.
Hold on right there, okay?
Overeating.
Just hold on. And like you don't know what is going on, there's a simple math. You're eating too much, you're not gonna lose weight. Which part of this is very hard to understand, that she's eating at least 4 times of what she should be eating. So why are we overeating and playing like we don't know what's going on?
But she didn't overeat. She's still eating.
You want to
the
argue
same-
that with the scale? Don't argue with me.
But
If
she
you argue
didn't
that with the
overeat.
scale.
She couldn't overeat. I gave her proportioned meals, and it's the same as I've always given her. The only thing that we know that's different is she quit eating the vinaigrette and ate honey mustard dressing.
She eat a gallon of honey mustard?
Nonetheless, both Margaret and her mother continued lying, even when the deed had already been done. To show Margaret just how precarious her situation was, Dr. Now left them with an unfiltered warning.
And if you don't go to therapy and do what you need and take this seriously, my bet is you come in next month, you probably gain some weight.
We didn't even do a
And
month
give me
before
the
we came in.
same story that you're not eating very much. So from here, it is simple. I want you to lose 35 pounds by next month.
Incredibly, the warning got Margaret to buckle up and take her weight loss journey seriously. Within a few weeks, she was cleared for the bypass surgery. The surgery itself was a success, but Margaret's psychological state had taken a big hit. During her recovery phase, Margaret was increasingly irritable and gradually became addicted to her medication. Not only that, she was also verbally abusive towards the nurses, healthcare providers, and even her mother. When Dr. Now caught wind of her behavior, he confronted the irritable participant and delivered another masterclass in savagery.
This is not in here to sit down and manipulate everything and get everything you want. You're abusing the system, and this is not the way that you're gonna scream and cry and get your way out of it. That is not the solution for your problem right now. So, are you gonna change, or do you wanna continue what you're doing right now? Be honest about it. Don't lie about it. If you wanna stay in bed and eat yourself to death and not walking and let everybody leave you alone and not do physical therapy, say so. And don't lie about it.
It wasn't just Dr. Now who was disappointed in Margaret's change in attitude. Some viewers had some things to say about it. The ones that abuse the staff tick me off the most. Those people are doing their best to help you. The weight loss journey had taken its toll on her. Even though she was discharged, Margaret had to continue psychotherapy. Like Margaret, this next couple's inability to keep up with Dr. Now's strict diet set them up for some very savage words. The first episode of the 6th season featured Texas's own Reena and Lee Sutton, married for 8 years. The couple had met at a weight loss surgery rehabilitation center and began a romantic relationship, indirectly paving the way for more weight gain. By the time they appeared on My 600 Pound Life, they had a combined weight of 1,263 pounds, along with other aggravated health issues Dr. Now was quick to savagely point out.
Renee, you're diabetic and you're taking enormous amount of insulin.
Yes.
And Lee, you're almost completely immobile now. Are you able to stand up at all?
I'm pretty active. I can walk 20, 30 feet with these canes pretty good.
If you think that's pretty active, then you're a little delusional about that.
The doctor's words struck a chord, and over the next few weeks, the couple took their program seriously and were able to lose a significant amount of weight. As a result, both of them were cleared for surgery. Unfortunately, Reena had contracted pneumonia and had to wait till she got better. Meanwhile, Lee's surgery was a success. All he needed to do was follow the doctor's medical advice. But of course, that proved a lot more difficult than he expected, and Dr. Now was sure to show his real thoughts.
You just had your bypass about 2 months ago, and when you left the hospital, you were down to 546. So you lost only 9 pounds since then. But Renee has lost almost 50 pounds at the same time. And she hasn't even had her bypass yet.
I guess I'm eating the wrong things.
You think it's funny?
Lee was already set for success, but was now failing not just himself, but everyone involved. In fact, when Lee realized that he wasn't going to make weight, he began frustrating Reena's efforts by eating as he pleased and asking her to quit the program, ultimately making the journey far more difficult for her than it needed to be. Thankfully, she stayed true to her goals and even lost more weight without the surgery. Still, throughout his interactions with Dr. Now, Lee continued acting like he wasn't sabotaging his own efforts.
I guess I'm not eating the right things. I mean,
We gave you the instruction that you need to follow, and you never follow it. You play your cards right until you got the surgery. And now you're playing this kind of game, and you think that's okay? How in the
I
world
don't see how
somebody...
I'm playing in a game. I throw up constantly. I eat what I can keep down.
That's how it works. You throw up constantly because the surgery forces you to when you overeat now.
I think my problem is I'm holding a lot of fluid. I can't hardly pee.
Really?
At this point, Dr. Now couldn't take any more of Lee's delusion and didn't hold back.
And you think that you're not eating and you're getting
I don't want to get malnourished either.
Do you look like you're malnourished? You're overeating, and whatever you're overeating, you're throwing up. It means the surgery is working to hold you back when you make bad choices. And it's the only reason that you didn't gain 100 pounds these past 2 months.
Annoyed at Dr. Now's brutal assessment, Lee stormed out of his office. As for Reena, she continued her program and eventually lost more than 250 pounds. Lee's constant attempts at sabotaging her weight loss efforts ruined their relationship, and the couple eventually split, which the audience saw as an overall positive for Reena. He was awful to her. Personally, I hope she lost the weight and was able to find someone who appreciates her. Reena's less than supportive husband ultimately led to some savage remarks from the doctor, who wasn't going to hold back for anybody, not even this next participant. Holly made her debut in the 5th episode of the 7th season. When she got on the show, her goal was to lose 50 pounds in a couple of months. When she failed to achieve this, it opened her up to a few choice words from Dr. Now.
So last time you only lost 29 pounds in 2 months instead of 50. And I gave you a second chance. But now this time you had even less progress with only an 18-pound loss in 2 months. So you want to tell me why that is?
I don't know. I thought I was doing good till I saw the scale.
Holly, stop playing games and lying to me. You know exactly what you're doing when you're making the choices you do. I'm not gonna play along with this act. You have this dynamic where you act like a child who doesn't understand.
It didn't stop there. Dr. Now had some more savage words reserved for her, especially after finding out her secret urges.
All right, so tell me what's really going on.
I've had some trouble with cravings still, and it's just a repeating record in my head that plays over and over and over until I give in. Nothing is working to get past that record playing in my head.
What is record playing saying?
I want chocolate, I want chocolate, I want chocolate, I want chocolate.
So chocolate is more important to you than living, apparently.
After this meeting, Holly would take a weight loss program a lot more seriously and was eventually approved for surgery. At the end of her year, she had lost another 240 pounds. At the very least, Dr. Now's tough love had the desired effect. Unfortunately, this next My 600 Pound star couldn't take the heat. Residing in the Rocky Mount area of North Carolina, Karen's time on My 600 Pound Life was a bit unusual. For starters, she had developed agoraphobia, a fear of leaving her house, and had to rely on her children for basic errands and daily tasks. This was a problem. Her phobia meant she couldn't travel to Houston to see Dr. Now, which meant he had to arrange for her weight to be measured at home.
I know that I was up to at least 640, and I think I'm gonna be down to at least 540. 604.
Yes.
All right.
Karen was already showing signs of delusion. Following the reading, Dr. Now tasked her with losing 40 pounds before her next appointment. She didn't, and repeatedly blamed the scale, despite checking 3 times, prompting Dr. Now to give her a reality check.
That's not right, Dr. Now, because it's higher than before, and that's not right.
Karen, this is a professional scale. It's not your everyday scale, and they're precise and is accurate. So you may think you lost more weight, but in reality, you haven't lost as much as you think you have.
No, I am, Dr. Now, because I can feel it.
Of course, she remained delusional and continued blaming everything and everyone. Dr. Now eventually gave her another chance to meet his demands, and once again, she failed to make weight. This time, she'd take things a step further and try to gaslight Dr. Now, who immediately delivered a savage burn.
If you expect that I believe you over the scale, you're right, because the scale doesn't lie, and you realize that you're lying to yourself if you don't believe the scale.
In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and quit the program, an attitude this next participant had in common. But unlike Karen, Dr. Now would be much more brutal. Before making it on the show, Stephen Asante, arguably the most controversial participant on My 600 Pound Life, already had an online reputation for being a jerk and overall a man baby.
This looks really yummy.
Weighing in at a staggering 734 pounds, Stephen made his on-screen debut in the 5th season. He had grown so big that he couldn't walk by himself anymore and had to be transported in the back of a truck to the hospital. Dr. Now, understanding Stephen's life was very much at risk, admitted him almost immediately, even though he hadn't shown any desire to lose weight. The doctor had planned to put Stephen under strict supervision so that he could control what he ate, but that decision came with consequences, as Stephen would bombard the nurses and caregivers with ridiculous requests, even spilling his urine on the floor so he could get some attention. When Dr. Now caught wind of his behavior, he knew exactly what to do.
Let me put it in plain thing. He came from up north, but this is Texas.
Yes, it is.
You're gonna have to shape up in Texas and behave like people in here. All right?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to hear of this issue again.
Yes.
And if I do, then this is going to be a very different conversation.
Of course, he continued being annoying and downright abusive to the staff, bringing at least one of the caregivers to the verge of tears. Once again, complaints about Stephen's behavior reached the doctor, and this time, he wasn't so lenient with his patient.
Steve, there is no room for negotiation in here. This is not going to be tolerated by anybody.
I'll do anything for another shot.
You want to help, you don't abuse people around you. And you call your dad. Come pick you up.
Can you call him?
Very well. We call your father to find out where we would take you.
Rarely do we see Dr. Now get this upset. Stephen's refusal to heed the doctor's warnings had caused him the 24-hour hospital care he needed. He'd have to continue his weight loss journey by himself. In the weeks that followed, Stephen slowly became addicted to his prescription drugs, going from hospital to hospital, complaining about severe pains to get the drugs he wanted. After he ran out of hospitals to scam, Stephen returned to Dr. Now, hoping to get some pain medication. Instead, he would get one of the coldest reality checks yet.
Now, stand over here and look at that mirror.
Why?
Look at yourself. Look at what you have done to your body. Look at your body. Look at your stomach. When you came, it wasn't hanging that far. Now it's hanging all down. Mm-hmm. Look at your leg, swollen, red, lymphedema in both of them. Look like an elephant's leg.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look human anymore because what you have done.
Following this dressing down, Stephen got around to doing the right things and eventually qualified for surgery, which allowed him to lose even more weight in the months that followed. And although he had finally gotten to losing some weight, his personal hygiene had not improved in the slightest. And of course, the doctor had something to say about it.
What is going on with your personal hygiene? You heard of something called soap and water?
Yeah, it's...
I have a couple of people back there and puking from the smell that you have.
Fortunately, the doctor's brutal words finally got to Stephen, and he was able to avoid the inevitable. The same cannot be said for this next person. Originally from Paducah, Kentucky, James King weighed an incredible 790 pounds when he made his on-screen debut in the 11th episode of the 5th season. His relationship with his wife Lisa proved to be a key factor during his attempt to lose weight under Dr. Now's guidance. Just like Stephen, James was immobile and needed to be admitted so the doctor could monitor everything he ate. As expected, this made him very irritable, and he would constantly get into arguments with Dr. Now.
You know that I'm just now getting the resources that I've been needing.
We're talking about your food. We're not talking anything
All
else.
of it, I've needed all of it though to start with. I haven't had home health. I've had nothing.
Are you telling me that to start? What did that have to do with your eating habit?
Well,
You should have Ross right now. He's
I asked for a
600 pounds.
nutritionist when I first got here too, and I didn't get it.
James, this is ridiculous. What nutrition you need except the instruction that I gave you
Because
that
I'm
works
having
everybody else can follow them except you.
I had to retrain my body from eating cheeseburgers.
You gained 100 pounds and you're saying it's not your fault? You needed to retrain your body? Seriously?
At the end of the season, he had not lost any weight and did not get weight loss surgery as a result. But to everyone's surprise, Dr. Now gave him a second chance, admitting him to the hospital and putting him on a strict 1,200 calorie a day diet. Yet James gained even more weight while in the hospital. Someone was sneaking him food, and the only person capable of such enabling behavior was his wife, Lisa.
Whatever he's eating too much.
That's what I'm saying. The portion control, he's having too much portions because James is always wanting extras.
Between you two, he's killing himself, and you're helping him. Since day one I've seen him, his condition has gone down, and if it doesn't stop, we may have to intervene in a way that you won't like. You got that? So the game's stopped now.
Unfortunately, Dr. Now's warnings fell on deaf ears. James had failed to lose the required weight for surgery, and by the time he returned for his checkup, the morbidly obese patient had gained even more weight, resulting in this reaction from the doctor.
Whether it is intentional or not is irrelevant, because there's no argument, you're killing him. And you both keep coming here and playing games.
Dr. Now, but can you please get
Our plan is to put him on a certain diet, and you follow the diet and give him proper amount of food so he doesn't get himself to 750 pounds. You do your part and he does his part, or I'm through with you. You understand this?
Dr. Now was livid. His patient didn't quite understand how delicate the situation was, and so, in a final act of compassion, gave James an ultimatum. Send Lisa home and stay at the hospital so he could be monitored, or go home with Lisa and see that nothing changed. Of course, James chose the latter, and when he eventually returned for his checkup, Dr. Now already knew what to expect, which meant that he was about to get savage.
Think that you can give me the same story again, and you think I'm gonna believe you. Your weight is controlled by the food you take.
Well, she ain't giving me no food.
I couldn't
and
tell
the only
you
thing I'm
what-
eating is what she's bringing me.
So what do you think your weight come from, thin air?
Unsurprisingly, Lisa's enabling was obvious to everyone except James, with one viewer saying, "I swear Lisa kept him this way to get the disability checks." Tragically, on the 3rd of April 2020, Dr. Now's predictions came true. James passed away from complications related to extreme obesity. Dr. Now's savage words couldn't save James from himself. Unfortunately, another patient on this list was going through the same thing. Hailing from Indianapolis, Indiana, and weighing an incredible 665 pounds, Shanae was arguably one of the most thought-provoking participants ever, and that's saying something. She made her on-screen debut in 2018, and from the very first moments, it was obvious that she was not cut out for the journey ahead. Shanae had difficulty walking and doing most of her domestic chores. She had no choice but to rely on her husband, Freddie Hawkins. Consequently, he ended up featuring heavily on the show and often had to deal with his wife's selfish, emotional outbursts.
Too early, I'm sure. Come on.
All right, let's not argue, please. I really don't feel like it's an argument.
I'm not arguing, I'm just telling you. You spent too hours on the shirt on yourself. You very selfish.
But when it came to Shanae's interactions with Dr. Now on the show, she would get no such treatment. Although he tried showing restraint when talking to her, he soon realized his patient was living in denial. She somehow believed her eating habits weren't the cause of her weight gain, and as a result, refused to follow the doctor's strict diet plan, instead blaming her body's ability to retain fluid. All this self-deceit came to a head when Shanae came in for a second appointment and had added a few more pounds. Dr. Now was not happy.
You're still eating whatever you want, whenever you want.
Not necessarily all the time.
All right, I don't think you're grasping how dangerous your situation is, Shanae. With all the health issues you got, you may not even make it to 30. You're not even trying.
Despite the warning, Shanae still refused to stick to her diet, ultimately forcing Dr. Now to hospitalize her. He wanted her within reach so he could personally supervise her weight loss, since she obviously needed controlled monitoring. Yet, Shanae ignored the doctor's medical instructions and even snuck a pizza into her room. When Dr. Now found out, he could hardly contain himself, delivering one of the most savage reality checks seen on the show.
So there's nothing more we can do if you don't change your eating habits.
I have been working hard for it.
If you have weight loss surgery, how are you gonna lose weight?
Because I'm gonna work to get the weight off. The surgery's not gonna fix it.
Okay.
It's just a tool to do it.
By eating less, right?
Yes.
Seeing that her excuses weren't getting anywhere, Shanae started tearing up, but it didn't stop the doctor from getting his point across.
You have weight loss surgery, you lose weight, right?
Yes.
Okay, because you eat less.
Yes.
If you eat less, you lose weight.
I'm not eating, I'm telling you.
And this is for Freddie. None of your tests show that you're retaining water, okay? You're not 700 pounds of water.
Ever since I had surgery on my leg, you can't tell me that I haven't, because I have. I've been through this since I was 15 years old.
If you have been through that and you know what's wrong with you, then you don't need our help.
She wasn't fooling anyone. Not the doctor, not the camera crew, and most importantly, not the viewers. Shanae sat there and cried real tears with a whole empty pizza box, trying to convince Dr. Now that it's water weight. She's down bad. I screamed when he picked up the large pizza box and said, "And this is for Freddie." In the end, Shanae quit on her weight loss journey and gained even more weight than she had at the beginning. She had failed to lose enough weight for bypass surgery, unlike the next participant on our list, who did, but had a whole other problem to deal with. Arguably one of the laziest stars of My 600 Pound Life, Penny Seeger appeared on the 3rd episode of the 2nd season. She weighed a relatively less enormous 530 pounds and depended on her husband for almost everything. She'd gotten so big that Dr. Now believed she needed to be immediately admitted since her body mass index was totally out of whack. After fulfilling the doctor's condition for bypass surgery, Penny lost all motivation to lose any more weight once the surgery was completed, forcing Dr. Now to confront her.
While she's in the hospital, Penny must have somebody sneaking in food. Penny, how are you? How many times are you eating?
3 times a day.
Are you able to finish the whole thing you're eating?
A meal? No.
The less you eat, the better it is.
I'm like 5 or 6
but
plates
the miracle
right
is happening that you haven't lost any weight.
The worst part was that she believed she was doing all that needed to be done, except she wasn't, and Dr. Now would let her know just how delusional she was.
And you haven't lost any weight. You gained weight since the surgery. Okay? You should be right now walking. You should be around 250 pounds.
I feel that the scales were wrong in the beginning and that I weighed more than what that was.
Penny, quit crying because this is for your benefit, okay?
Unfortunately, Penny would not budge and eventually quit the program to carry on her weight loss journey at home. Penny is the biggest pain in the ass that I've ever seen on My 600 Pound Life. She knows exactly what she's doing and just doesn't care. Penny isn't the only patient to have folded under Dr. Now's relentless savagery and quit the program. This next star was just as controversial. Joyce Del Vescovo first appeared in the 8th season and ultimately struggled to reach her goals. At 4 feet 11 inches, her weight of nearly 760 pounds meant that her body mass index was around 160. The acceptable number for someone her height ranges between 18 and 25. Her life was actively at risk and she had to be admitted immediately. Although her first meeting with Dr. Now wasn't as rough as some of the other stars on the show, she struggled to lose weight fast enough, constantly blaming the 1,200 calorie daily diet, the doctor's methods, and everything in between. Something the viewers were able to pick up on. She puts the blame on everyone and even the scale. She has a horrible attitude. Tired of constantly correcting her, Dr. Now let her go home, hoping to see if a change of environment was what she needed. It didn't, and he would tear her a new one during their next call.
Lost enough weight that today you should be able to walk as much as you need to the clinic and come and see us. But that's not happening. So what's going on with your eating habit?
I am still following the calories, but I think I'm gonna have to take in a lot less calories than 1,200 to make any difference.
You're eating too much. You're eating 5 to 6 times what you should be right now, and that food is more important than saving your life.
Since it seemed like berating her remotely wasn't enough, Dr. Now then invited her back to the hospital. This revealed that Joyce had gained another 50 pounds, and the doctor had no choice but to let her know how disappointed he was.
On your own, because we're giving you every tool and every opportunity, and there's not much more I can do for you. After a year of trying, you have lost anything. So at this point, it's clear you don't really want to do this. And the bottom line is you don't want to. And unless that changes, we can't help you. If you have a medical emergency, we'll treat you. But I hope you wake up before that happens, because we may not be able to do anything to help you to save your life at that point.
Unfortunately, this stern warning had the opposite effect, and Joyce would quit the program after 9 months, with her weight dangerously close to when she first arrived. Just like a few others before her, Joyce had failed herself despite Dr. Now's tough love and savage words. But this next patient decided that if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. Hailing from Claremore, Oklahoma, Julius Clark is by far the biggest star on our list. He made his on-screen debut in the 4th episode of the 8th season, and weighed an alarming 892 pounds. His size hindered his ability to do a lot of things, forcing him to rely on his girlfriend for almost everything. Eventually, JT made up his mind to lose weight, and to do that, he would endure a barrage of savage remarks from the doctor.
But how was your activity?
Non-existent.
Okay, so what do you do all day?
I sit down, pretty much play video games or watch TV.
Do you have a goal in your life?
I want to see the world.
If you're almost immobile, then how are you going to support yourself?
JT's weight wasn't his only problem. He also had a large lymphodomia that made it difficult for him to walk, something viewers found incredibly strange. Are the dimples on his legs stretched out pores? I've seen this on a few episodes and it perplexes me. Despite staying in the hospital for a couple of months, Julius consistently failed to lose enough weight and was clearly having an attitude problem, especially since his girlfriend broke up with him mid-weight loss journey. As a result, Dr. Now allowed him to go home, but not before ripping him apart for falling behind.
What do you mean?
Me being here, being stressed out, makes me eat. Makes me want to eat.
You're not making any sense. I didn't follow that because I wasn't planning to be in here.
Okay.
Really? The floor was crooked, the light was not good, I was not planning to be here, so I'm gonna kill myself with food.
Although JT was allowed to go home and continue with the 122 calorie diet, as prescribed by the doctor, he maintained his weight loss journey and was eventually approved for surgery. In the end, JT lost over 400 pounds, and all he had to do was follow Dr. Now's savage but helpful instructions. Unfortunately, the next participant just couldn't. Appearing on the 2nd episode of the 11th season, Leona weighed over 630 pounds and clearly needed help. So, she reached out to Dr. Now, and from their first appointment, he made it abundantly clear how serious her situation was, in his usual savage style, of course.
Everybody gonna confuse you, but you should never get confused about one thing: eat less.
Yes.
Okay? There's no confusion with that. Okay? Now, if you really put the math together, you have eaten the food that belonged for next 4 years ahead of time.
Interestingly, Leona had been here before, 5 years earlier, when she weighed just over 400 pounds, she had reached out to Dr. Now for help and, after their first session, refused to come back until now. To her credit, she stuck with the program this time, but the doctor's words had not gotten to her. So, Dr. Now had to try again, using even harsher words to get his point across.
Okay, so what are you trying to tell me? You came here last time. We gave you exercises to follow with physical therapy to help you start getting out of your chair. And you didn't do that. And you were supposed to lose 40 pounds over the last one. But instead, you gained weight. And instead of waking up to things, you're deflecting the situation by saying, having pain. Yeah, you should have pain because you are 636 pounds instead of being 170 pounds. And you're still in this motorized wheelchair. You don't want to give that up? You don't want to give up your eating habit?
As brutal as that might have been, Dr. Now was coming from a place of care, and the viewers knew it. One of the reasons I love Dr. Now is he's brutally honest, and that's so refreshing. Still, LaTonya failed to lose adequate amounts of weight and had to be rushed to the hospital when she began experiencing difficulty breathing. While in the hospital, Dr. Now discovered that her weight was putting a heavy strain on her heart and knew she needed to stop eating before it was too late. So, he confronted her once again.
Well, that's good lunch.
I don't eat that. I don't eat beans at all. I don't even know what that is. And this look like dog food.
You don't like meat?
I don't eat stuff like this.
That's good nutrition, that's good protein.
Like I don't eat beans at all.
But how about the meat?
I don't eat that kind of meat. I haven't really ate nothing since I've been here.
You're not gonna fade away. You're gonna be fine.
I still have to eat something.
No. You're eating the food that belongs to the next 4 years ahead of time. So if you don't eat, you're gonna be all right. Okay?
Unfortunately, all his warnings fell on deaf ears, and by the end of her season, LaTonya had only lost 43 pounds. She could not keep up with the program and even gained weight after leaving. Tragically, on May 17th, 2025, LaTonya passed away at the age of 40 due to congestive heart failure. Now, if you like my videos, please subscribe or watch my similar videos here.